through 22 have been reviewed, and they have been met without conditions. Conditions of approval of this medical marijuana dispensary conditional use permit, none.
There was the one waiver request. Do you want to take action on that request on page 2 to allow 45-day reporting?
Yes.
Yeah. So moved. Seconded.
So moved in second. All those in favor? Thank you. Voted to approve. Decision. Based on the above facts and conclusions on July 12, 2021, the Planning Board voted to approve without conditions your medical marijuana dispensary conditional use permit application.
Is there a motion on the entire?
Take a motion on that
So moved. Second.
and seconded. All those in favor? Thank you very much. That's Larry.
Thank you, Hannah.
Thank you. Have a wonderful evening.
Next item on our agenda, 4B. Conditional use permit pre-application discussion with St. Germain Senior Project Manager, Representative Gregory's Disposal, Inc. for a proposed transfer station project off Industrial Road on land of Doug Cutchin, Assessors Map 1, Lot 4, in the Industrial Land Use District. How you doing tonight?
Good afternoon. Thanks for having us. My name's Kyle. I'm with Gregory's Disposal. Just wanted to introduce myself. This is Peter. He's with St. Germain. He's here to go over the little bit more technical stuff. We are proposing to put in a private transfer station on the Industrial Road. Just to give me a little background, Gregory's was started by my father 35 years ago. I'm the second generation, so as we grow, we're looking to grow our business. We're just looking to kind of move forward, and I'll bring Pete up here. He can go over the plans. They should have been sent around.
I believe they were submitted to put them on the TV, but I don't know if she has it.
I have hard copies.
Okay.
Probably break the artwork.
I'll let Pete come up and go over some specifics.
I want a big copy.
Yeah.
Show that big copy. That's what I need to read it.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Got him? Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. Yeah. Is that excellent, Kevin? I do. Thank you. It's like preschool. We're all getting a hey. You get one. You get one.
All right. Good evening, everyone. I'm Peter Moline. I'm with St. Germain. We're a engineering consulting firm that's helping Gregory's out with their proposed transfer station. Before we get into the plans, I just kind of wanted to give a quick description of the project in a little bit more detail. As Kyle explained, Gregory's is seeking to construct and operate a solid waste transfer station off of Industrial Drive. Excuse me. Proposed activities as far as waste acceptance goes, municipal solid waste construction demolition debris, bulky waste, wood waste, cardboard, plastic, paper, and universal waste as well. We won't be accepting any hazardous waste or special waste. That's not the plan. So there'll be a 3,600 square foot municipal solid waste transfer station building. Trucks will come in, dump the waste on the floor of the building where it'll be sorted. There'll be a small office building next to the transfer station. There'll be a tipping pad for the construction demolition debris material, and then various containers, one being containers for residential solid waste drop-off, and then single stream recyclables. So if we could now take a look at the plans here, I'll give a little bit more detail. The plan that I'm looking at right now is your site plan, C-101. This is just an overall view of the property. This is an approximate 15-acre lot off of Industrial Drive to the south of the BDS lot. And you can see right now it's undeveloped. According to this map here, the green colors are what will remain undeveloped. The grays are developed or impervious areas. And the blue here, that's our stormwater pond. Trucks will come in. There'll be a scale. They'll check in there with the operator, and then depending on what material they're dropping off, they'll move about the facility that way. If we could switch to plan SK-102, this is a little closer version of the site and some more details. As I mentioned before, the gray colors, these are our impervious surfaces paved. The gold colored, that's our municipal solid waste building. And just to the north of that is our construction demolition debris tipping pad. On the right side of that pad is a retaining wall, and on the other side of that we'll have tractor trailers where the waste will be sorted, loaded into trucks, and sent off site. As I mentioned earlier, trucks will come in and drive up on the scale here, and then depending on what material they're dropping off, they'll make their way through the site. Generally, the site's graded left to right, sort of west to east, if you will, with all the water, stormwater flowing into a pond here and off-site. Any questions on the overall design or layout of the facility? Okay. Our third figure here that I'd like to review is plan SK-103. These are our sight lines. We're proposing planting some pine trees here that will effectively block views of the facility from the ball field area. And we're happy to discuss that further if necessary. But as of right now, the site's undeveloped, and we are looking to start construction sometime this fall. One bit more of information, we've already submitted the Chapter 402 transfer station application to the Maine DEP. It's been accepted for processing, and we hope to have approval on that application in the next month or two. And the project manager on that is Mike Parker for the DEP. Any questions on the plans or the project?
Questions or comments from our board?
One of the planning board members could not attend tonight, so Jeff asked how often the full containers would be hauled off the site.
I'm going to defer to Kyle.
Okay. He's afraid of it staging there.
Yep, so there'll be the material gets hauled off every day.
Okay.
So based on my numbers, we're going to be hauling around anywhere between 2 and 4 tractor trailer loads per day. None of the waste will stay on site more than 24 hours. If it gets full in the morning, it's leaving that day. Only time it will get stored overnight Somebody comes in 4 or 5 o'clock, it gets loaded up, and then it gets taken out the next day. So nothing will be on site more than 24 hours.
Is that the same with the hazardous waste?
So hazardous, we will not accept.
Oh, you got a spot here, hazardous and special waste.
So that area is
Storage area.
included just in the event that it happens to slip through inspection or they come across it when they're sorting their waste. It's really a backup.
Oh, okay.
Ideally, that waste would be picked up before, or caught before it made its way to the facility, so Kyle could say, we're not accepting that. That would be a temporary storage.
Okay.
It won't be accepted. You can't drive in with it and say, I want to get rid of it. It's in the case somebody slips something through, puts it in a bag and doesn't want to pay for it.
Okay.
So what are your hours of operation?
The hours operation for here, I plan on running, I believe that should be in here. Here you go. Yep, so I plan on running, it's going to be open to the public 7 to 5, Monday through Friday, and then I plan on being open Saturday, 8 o'clock to 1.
How much traffic volume do you anticipate with this?
Yep, I've got some numbers here.
We have to be a little bit careful given the fact that there are ball fields right there,
Sure.
you know.
Here we go.
Yep, so we're estimating this per day.
So, yeah, excuse me. So we've broken the traffic down. In the main DEP application, we broke it down into passenger cars, tractor trailers, and Packer trucks from Kyle's fleet. And there's approximately 4 tractor trailers that would make 5 trips a day. That's 20 vehicle trip ends. For Packer trucks, there's 7 Packer trucks varying in size, and they would make 1 trip a day. So between an estimated 1 to 10 residential drop-offs, residential vehicles, excuse me, you know, there's staff at the site. There's going to be 1 to 2 employees. Plus the trucks that I just mentioned, we're estimating a maximum of 78 trip ends per day. But we anticipate it to be under that.
Is this very similar to the one in Waterville, out on the airport road?
It is similar. It is similar to the one on the airport road.
Is there going to be any fencing between the road and the ball field? So
For the sight
run
lines,
into
is-
the road when the trucks come?
So the entrance drive will be gated, but the entire site will not be fenced.
I
Kyle's
mean,
proposed-
just the, you know, that, where the road curves there with the ball field. Keep the kids from-
Right, we thought about that. Kyle, you can jump in anytime.
yeah, so I plan on having it is going to be gated at the end of my driveways, so you will not be able to get in there unless you really are getting adventurous four-wheeling, going around stuff. It's not going to be accessible. And then there will also be security cameras up on all the premises, inside the building, outside the building. We'll be secured at all times.
And that, excuse me, the municipal solid waste building will be locked. It's a closed building. That will be locked when off hours.
Is that, I think what you're thinking of is on the curve right there.
Yeah, right where the parking
And
lot
that's
is.
actually not my land, that's a town road, so I can't consider it town road. I think you're thinking right where the,
Yeah, right where the curve is. Get a parking lot and the ball field.
so that's gonna be a town road going up that way. As soon as you turn onto my property, I plan on having a gate, it's a locked gate.
So where would your property stand?
That's why it was built.
Right, my property starts right at that driveway. There's another part coming, which is a road extension.
Any other questions?
So there's no way the kids could get in there?
No, it's gonna be all gated up.
Will you be recycling items like paper, clear glass, stuff like that?
I will have a zero sort there. I'll have a container, so if the general public wants to come in and recycle, they're welcome to do so. I mean, everything is done at a charge, is a minimal charge. But they are welcome to bring stuff like that in. If you're already a customer, I would accept it from you.
Are you guys planning on recycling it, or just charging for it and then sending it to like a landfill in Norwich Walk or something like that?
No, I do plan on recycling, yes. I currently recycle. In my business now, we have a cardboard and a recycling run. And we continue, it's basically a continuation. I'm already handling that material and taking care of it. So it would just be picking that up from this facility as well as my commercial facilities that I pick it up from.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate it.
Next item on our agenda, unfinished business tabled from the June 7th, 2021 Planning Board meeting. Item 4, a conditional use permit application for Fairfield Solar LLC to construct a 20-megawatt solar farm located at 29 Oakland Road on Assessors Map 002, Lot 38, and 24-1 in the Rural Residential Land Use District. Who is here from Chimbro tonight? Please.
Parker, have one. What number? Want to go through the group?
Lauren Walsh.
Cordero. Mike Fishing. And Bruce Metric on the phone.
Oh.
And Bruce Metric on the phone
Very
from
good.
Chinbro.
Thank you. Would someone step up to the podium and maybe explain, or someone explain to us what has happened since our last 2-hour public hearing?
Great, can you hear me okay?
Yes,
Great. So, thanks. I think you gave us some good guidance at the last meeting, where you said you've met the ordinance, but you got some unsatisfied neighbors, and why don't you go try to work that out? And that's what we did over the last month. The document that Bruce forwarded to the Codes Enforcement Office, I think probably says most of the gory details. I doubt if you want me to go through that line by line. At a high level, I'd tell you that our meeting with Jeff Pellerin, he gave us some very good ideas on how he thought we could access what we termed the danger trees more easily with being less intrusive on his property, and we changed our design to accommodate that. I think he helped make us, we made a better project out of it, so we're helpful for that input. I also know that we didn't completely meet his expectations. He would like that ordinance to be 50 feet back from the edge and not 35 feet, and we've had good open dialogue that we can't do that. We can't make our power requirements and make the project run if it goes to 50 feet, so I think we have a gentleman's agreement to disagree on that. So then we move to the other abutters, the Heimels and the Rosses, and we did a lot on those edges between, I think the high-level summary would be that the farm buildings and what they call the potato patch, to the extent we can, which we think we're upwards of more than half of it right now, leaving in their hands to maintain or get the farm reactivated again, if you will, with some grazing operations and other things. We also put the power underground for the line that's coming from the flats on the far south side up across behind the Heimels property. So I think that was a view infringement that I think we solved on their behalf. There's 100 other details mixed into that long list that you probably don't care about going through in detail. I think the best thing I could do is probably step aside and let both the Rosses and the Heimels and Jeff speak, if you want, on their level of satisfaction on the level of effort we put forward. But.
No, I don't think that's appropriate. We've had a public hearing. That public hearing was 2 hours long. You people came to that meeting ready for a permit. You met our ordinance. You elected to meet with these people privately and to deal with some of their personal issues that are way beyond the ordinance that you already had met. So whatever you have done, excellent, great. Approximate cost of your concessions?
We haven't added it up. I will tell you they weren't free.
right?
I haven't added it up. If I told you a
Curious.
number, if I
Yeah.
told you a number, I'd be making it up and be misleading you.
100,000 or 20,000?
You're near 100.
Thank you. And is it, I read briefly that package, I got it late today. Is it, am I understanding that the buildings you bought with this property, you're giving them back?
Yeah, and it's not a complete gift. The Rosses are in return giving us a trim easement on the southern boundary that makes the panels more productive at the end of the day. I'd like to think they get a good deal. I believe they got a good deal, but it wasn't for free.
Any other questions or comments from this board? I want to thank you for what you did, because you didn't have to do that, you know, and by no means are we going to implement these changes that you've put into the process as part of our ordinance. I don't believe that anybody would buy a piece of property in Fairfield for the rest of our lives if there was an ordinance that said they could give the buildings back.
Understood.
Okay?
Yeah.
Let alone, underground power is a little pricey, let alone stop burying those size cables to meet the specs of CMP.
Yep.
So my hat's off for what you did for these people. It was way beyond what you had to do. There was no requirement for the town of Fairfield for you to do any of that. And if there is any issues that our ordinance is lacking in detail or in specifications, the public was absolutely join the planning board, join the council, change our ordinance. We only enforce the existing ordinance. We don't write it. We only enforce it. And you've met those requirements way beyond.
Okay.
Thank you.
That was our goal.
Yep. We're still in unfinished business. I take a motion to accept finding of facts. That's what I was going to say. Conditional use finding of facts, 7/12/21, file number COND.
Who made the motion to move to findings?
I will take a motion to move
So
to
moved.
finding of facts. So moved, second. All those in favor? Thank you very much.
Thanks.
A site plan to scale showing at a minimum location of existing proposed structures and a distance from lot lines, water bodies, submitted to the planning board with application. Attachment B, proposed site plan C1 and C2. If the market value of the project will exceed $80,000, a copy of plans and specifications for construction will be required. The site plan, including the submission package of the construction, will require a local building permit application. Existing topographical contour, 2-foot contours, as shown on attachment A, topo plan. Proposed grading and contour intervals of not greater than 5 feet, as shown on site plan C1 and C2. Site improvements, as shown on C1, C2, install a 28.2 megawatt DC ground-mounted solar array consisting of 69,238 photovoltaic modules attached to a single-axis tracking system with screw anchor foundation, inverters, road, and fencing. Vehicle travel ways, as shown on C1 and C2, one entrance to each lot along the property line. Landscaping and buffer areas, as shown on C1, with arrows along 29 Oakland Road frontage, evergreen trees. Stormwater and erosion control structures, as shown on attachment F, and erosion control plan. Power lines and outside installations of any machinery or materials, as shown on plan C1 and C2. An estimate of vehicle trips to be generated by the development and any modifications to the public roads which may be necessary to absorb traffic. As described in the project narrative, this is an unmanned facility and is expected to only sporadically generate sporadic visits with an approximate 10-month construction period is complete. A statement from the fire chief that is suitable provisions for fire protection has been included. Letter was submitted with the application. A list of names and addresses of all landowners within 200 feet of the property boundaries submitted with application. Letter to abutters was mailed on May 26, 2021, notifying of tonight's public hearing on this application. Analysis of potential environmental impacts, including effects on surface and groundwater bodies, air quality, and wildlife resources. If any potential negative impacts are identified, a management strategy consistent with the performance standards of the ordinance and state and federal regulations must be prepared by a qualified professional. As described in the project description application, the proposed project had a pre-application meeting with the Maine DEP and will need a site location development permit and an NRPA permit not yet granted by DEP. The erosion control plan was prepared by a registered professional engineer as shown on the erosion control plan in Appendix 6 of the application. A stormwater management plan prepared by a registered professional engineer as shown on the stormwater management plan in Attachment F of the application. A statement regarding the use, storage, and disposal of any dangerous, toxic, special, or hazardous waste, whether solid, liquid, or gaseous, and a special measurement available to deal with them in appropriate fashion. Project description, section 3.3, the project does not expect to encounter hazardous materials during construction. The construction operations will not utilize hazardous chemicals. Section 3.4G of the Fairfield Land Use Ordinance number 1 through 7, and the Planning Board finds: 1. The development will not create an unsafe or unhealthy conditions. The development will fence the entire solar array system and place a vegetated buffer along Oakland Road. The development will not create or add traffic congestion. As described in the project narrative, this is an unmanned facility and expected to only sporadic visits when the approximate 10-month construction period is complete. The development will not result in undue reduction of air or water quality, wildlife habitat, and will not cause undue flooding or soil erosion. As described in the project description application, the proposed project has had a pre-application meeting with Maine DEP and will need a NRPA permit not yet granted by DEP condition of approval. The development would be the greatest extent feasible to preserve historic, prehistoric, or archaeological resources. As described in the project description application, the proposed project has had a pre-application meeting with the Maine DEP and will need a site location development permit not yet granted by DEP, and that's a condition of approval as well. The development will not cause undue strain on public facilities or services. This solar energy system will not cause an undue strain on public services. The applicant has sufficient financial and technical capacity to complete the development. As described in Attachment J, Statement of Technical and Financial Capabilities, Chimbro has the financial capacity to complete the development. The development is consistent with the Fairfield Comprehensive Plan. The development will be located on State Route 23, which is a transportation corridor identified as an area for development on the state route. Section 9.17 Solar Energy System Standards in the Fairfield Land Use Ordinance number 1 through 10. Standards 1 through 10 have been met as described in the Fairfield Solar LLC Conditional Land Use Permit. 1. The project will comply with specific state requirements for installation of solar energy systems in Maine, and the primary project component specification sheet are included in Attachment F. 2. The Fairfield Solar LLC project will connect directly to CMP transmission system, and because of this, the applicant has made submission for this proposed project as a small generator interconnection request to the Independent System Operators of New England, ISO-NE, in Attachment C. The underground utilities as shown in Attachment B, Plans C1 and C2. And 4, concentrated glare FAA notification was completed at Waterville Airport. Screening of residential uses as shown on Plan C1 along the Oakland Road west side. Item 6. Stormwater management plan will treat the stormwater via meadow vegetation beneath the panels, and the site will be mowed not more than twice a year. The site plans C1 and C2 show the site will be completely enclosed by an 8-foot fence with a locking gate. Item 8, access drives along are shown 20 feet wide on site plans C1 and C2. Item 9, the application states that the site will be properly maintained and kept free from hazards, including but not limited to faulty wiring, loose fasteners. The application states that the project owner will coordinate with the fire chief to provide a key box to allow emergency vehicles access, and all means of shutting down the solar array system will be clearly marked on the emergency contact name provided. Conditions of approval of this conditional land use permit. 1. Fairfield Solar LLC must obtain a site location development permit from the Maine Department of Environmental Protection, permits not granted yet. Item 2, Fairfield Solar must obtain a Natural Resource Protection Act Tier 3 permit from the Maine Department of Environmental Protection, Bureau of Land Resources, and that permit has not been granted yet. Item 3, Fairfield Solar LLC must obtain an Army Corps of Engineers authorization, not yet granted. Item 4, Fairfield Solar LLC must obtain a Maine Department of Transportation driveway entrance permit. Permits are not yet granted. And item 5, Fairfield Solar LLC will complete the concentrated glare FAA notification with the Waterville Airport and supply a copy to the Fairfield Planning Board. Waivers. Fairfield Solar LLC, upon written request for a waiver submitted on the conditional use application, requesting a waiver of the construction to begin in 6 months from the date of issuance of the conditional use permit and extend the start of the construction to 18 months. Questions or comments? Hearing none, I call for a vote.
We vote to accept as it is without one waiver?
With that one waiver, which is the extension of time, and the 5 conditions of approval,
Right.
which are all
They're
the...
pending.
Yes, all pending, all of that, plus the DOT permit. So those 5 conditions plus the waiver.
Yes.
And that's all noted in the additional use.
Yes, this is part of the conditional use permit. Those are the conditions, and that is the waiver. Everything else meets the ordinance and beyond.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Thank you. Next item, item 6, items by the public.
Thank you.
Yes, go ahead.
Item by the clerk.
I do have an item from the clerk. We have Piedmont Solar LLC. Due to CMP changing their requirements and asking for some additional reporting, I believe Steve Barrett is on the line with us, and he is asking for an extension of time on his permit. Steve, are you there?
I am. Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah, I figured I'd just come on for a moment just to let you know that we're still committed to the project. Everything is in place. The only thing we're waiting for is a cluster study that CMP has to complete. This is something that they did not inform us early on, and their actions are affecting not just our project, but a whole group of projects in the region. But we hope to have that study completed in early fall, and we'll be on schedule to start construction before the winter time.
I think this is typical what we're seeing in your industry. We're seeing a lot of delays coming from CMP, so it's no surprise you were asking for this waiver tonight. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, I take a motion.
Motion to approve.
Motion to grant that
Second.
extension and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
That's an easy one.
Your extension is granted. Thank you very much for your
Thank you,
patience.
Steve.
Thank you all.
All right.
Have a good night.
You
Good night.
too.
Next item, any items by members? And you guys were aware that all of this, all of these concessions that were granted tonight were private.
Yeah.
And we purposely did not want to include those concessions in our meeting minutes.
Right.
Or to detail them, to set a
avoid a
precedent.
Yeah.
To set a precedent that we're willing to move the setbacks to 50 feet, for example.
Yeah, understood.
Okay, the ordinance is the ordinance is the ordinance, and,
Didn't they agree on 35 or something?
oh, they agreed on
Yeah, they
all
thought
kinds
us
of
They
things.
give them a lot of stuff.
Well,
Yep.
Yeah, they
which-
did.
Which I'm glad they did. I mean, that's totally up to Chimbro, but I would expect nothing less from them, to be honest with you.
You know, it's interesting, when you take title to property, it becomes yours, and you just have to meet the ordinance,
That's true.
okay?
True.
How about
And,
why do you buy property?
What's that?
Why would you buy property if you have no saleable we can do with it?
Right. So, I mean, I hope these people weren't insulted that they didn't have a discussion tonight, but
Well, you did the right thing.
Yes, you did.
It was done.
2 more hours?
No.
Okay.
And it's out of our hands.
Right.
It was out of our hands that night, we could have granted the permit that night, but, you know, the lesson learned, I guess, is you show, you know, and
Well,
your
look at all
point.
that they
Well,
did.
I think really by doing that, to be quite honest with you, we dodged a bullet from the standpoint of they said,
Absolutely.
okay, we didn't force the conversation, but we enabled the conversation
Yeah,
if they wanted to have it,
I agree. Enabling that was,
right?
Well,
If they
Jim would have said at that point,
We did a good
geez, we're
job.
not interested, we meet the ordinance, we'd like a vote tonight.
We had a panic
If we
on the
didn't,
back.
we could get sued for not enforcing our
Well, the other
ordinance.
thing is, I was kind of confused as to why so many people were here.
They thought they could speak again.
yeah.
They thought there would be another public hearing where we could put more trees up and put higher fences and get a little more back.
You know,
I
at some
think.
point, I would like to talk about the buffers that, you know, that you see from the public sees, if you will. Mainly because that fence is a static buffer. It doesn't change.
Yeah.
But if we could put something in an ordinance that said some type of live growth not to exceed or not to interfere with operational capabilities of the solar farm, you know, as a site buffer as opposed to just the chain link fence is security. That really is security.
It is.
And
Yeah,
the
but why
biggest
they
thing-
don't do more green slats or something?
Well, like they did over on your.
Plant some rose
on that,
bushes.
The gas thing.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing we're hearing isn't about the solar farm going in on the property.
Right.
It's about the visual impact it has because it's a drastic change. Now, that guy out on 201 was a total meathead.
Oh, yeah, that was
Okay,
interesting.
but if any one of us was in that situation, I'd just like to have a conversation that says, would it be worth considering that we would say, you know,
Add a
where
section.
public sees, if it's facing the woods, I don't really give to. And just say something that would be not static, because in 20 years, that fence isn't going to change at all. And whereas the growth could go up, at least to minimize the site and provide us with a buffer, or provide us, the traveling public, and us neighbors.
Unfortunately, and that's a good point, and you could plant dwarf trees and only grow 8 feet tall or something, I don't know, but we're going to be encountering, coming down up in Main Street soon, okay, and looking down into Fairfield Center and the Tozier Farm, there's no site that isn't going to see solar.
Right,
solar
but
panels.
because, I mean, that, coming up from that hill, going down, you're absolutely correct. I was looking at it, there's just no way on God's green earth. However, if your house is right there,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
it's kind of out of sight, out of mind. It's not so bad after a certain amount of time. That's all I'm
The
saying.
slats would be good.
But correct me if I'm wrong, we have within the ordinance the latitude in that case where there's a house, 40 feet from the road and straight across is a solar farm. We have the latitude to require vegetated buffers. I think that's well within...
On the roadway.
On the roadway.
So the-
Absolutely. So the ordinance allows for
The
that.
solar panels aren't what? I don't know how high they are off the ground. They're not that high.
Oh, 6 feet, 7
Yeah.
feet.
So if you had a dwarf tree or something, just to minimize the impact, because these people weren't talking about, I didn't know anything about the family dynamics with this. However, with everything else that's going on, that would be, and these guys are willing to do stuff like that because to them, then they can do whatever they want on their land.
But they spent in excess of $100,000 on concessions that are not required
Right.
by the town. That says a lot about Jimmy.
Yes, it does.
And they gave back the buildings
Which I don't understand.
to the
that.
family after the family sold the buildings to,
As part of the price, purchase price, right?
Well, I think they had a family dispute, is actually what
oh,
happened.
no, there's no family dispute.
I thought one family member sold it, and the
Yeah.
other one didn't like it.
Well, the one family member that had the right to sell it did sell it.
Right,
Right.
and it upset the other ones.
Well, and it's called estate planning, okay? So before everybody dies, you put in writing what
you
happens to
want.
the old bond and where the old, the old...
You get my old dog.
Yeah, but you get the dog, yes. No, again, I guess, and Greg, you're right. We have the latitude along the roadways to do enhanced buffer zones, and that would help maybe. But, boy, man, when you start moving sidelines 50 feet, and let's put it this way. What if the Tupper Farm decided that we're going in the solar business, okay? And we're going to put our own solar farm up, and we're going to do this, and we're going to put as many solar panels as we can so the family can make money. As the landowner of the farm, would they move the panels 50 feet? Probably not, okay, because they're trying to maximize the return on solar panels. Again, we're going to see a whole lot more of this, guys, so I guess...
So does the town council, Nicole, maybe you know this, do they get some type of a financial document that basically states how much is expected in tax revenue to the town?
The assessor could do a calculation for them.
Because I mean,
Sure.
Weren't we gonna ask them to do that? Because we have no idea
What the
how
tax
it's gonna
value-
affect the taxpayers.
Right, and I think it's so new that they're not sure either. They're waiting to see how other communities assess it, because it's something new in the state of Maine.
But it's the same old thing as a gas company and the same old thing that we
Right.
watched at Madison Paper. The town says you're worth $20 million. Madison Paper says, no, we're worth 10. Okay, now they just lost that case recently
Right.
in the courts. But she is right, the same thing's going to happen on a solar panel. Now, the information I'm getting, on 100 acres, there's $30 million worth of panels. Now, that's from the solar industry, not from the assessing industry.
Right.
So.
Assessing is completely different than,
Just for the heck of it, when our assessor guy's in once a week, whatever, quiz him as to what, again, 50 acres or 100 acres of solar panels, and the key point is, if there's $30 million worth of value on 100 acres, the tax bill, based on $30 million, goes to that solar company, and they write a check to the town of Fairfield with no expenses to Fairfield.
and it's funny how when they're building it, they say it's this much, and when it's
Right.
built, wait a minute.
Well, we have to depreciate it, we have to devaluate it, 2 of them got cracked, we're gonna subtract them, I don't know what they're doing. But I will tell you this, it's substantial dollars.
right.
On an unused farm that's paying in farm growth or tree growth, that's paying, let's face it, $2,000 on 100 acres, basically. That number goes, 400 grand? Just curious.
Well, don't these folks know, they're coming, they're building these things, right?
Right.
As a business person, wouldn't you want to know what your financial obligation is going to be?
I'm sure they.
For,
Yeah, they probably have an
know.
idea.
It's irrelevant. There's so much money involved, it's irrelevant.
well, it's irrelevant to them right now, but, again, I'd like
It's
the
built
state.
in, it's built into their operational costs from United States-wide costs.
So what's it going to give us in Fairfield?
That's what
Yeah,
I'm
we don't
saying.
know.
And-
I'll have to ask the
Because
assessor.
we keep hearing the taxes are going to go down. I don't think the taxes will go down, to be quite honest with
They
you.
never will.
No.
They just spend more.
We need more, our roads need to be done. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that needs to be done. So the tax rate, it may stay stagnant, which is in one case, you could actually say if it's stagnant, that is a reduction. We haven't had a reduction. We haven't had an increase in X number of years. But if this is coming in and it's assessed at such and such a, then there ought to be some money coming in for the schools, for the roads, for, I mean, infrastructure, everything. Right?
Yep.
Well, based on a $500,000 house, let's say $1 million house, but the tax bill on that would probably be 10 grand. So $30 million is 300,000. So somewhere in the neighborhood of hundreds of thousands comes into this town.
I know.
And I want you to know, when the first solar farm gets assessed, and if it is correct, $30 million on 100 acres, and we're going to see hundreds and hundreds of acres coming, I'm going to the council, I'm going to ask them to change their vote on removing the Sharman Dam because they didn't want to lose $186,000 worth of revenue. Well, if they're getting $300,000 from the first solar farm, take that dam out. And if you take the dam out and you lose $186,000 in taxable revenue, which is taken care of by the solar farm, as soon as the dam unplugs, the added capacity left at the substations will handle another couple hundred acres, or a couple hundred acres of solar farms for the area towns. So Benton and Hinckley and all these towns that can get at those substations that now have space in their capacity, you're going to see more revenue turning. And again, it's going to turn from solar, not dams. They are catching hundreds of Atlantic salmon in water. And if I'm reelected, okay, no. No. But the point is that there is revenue, there is money, and there's no expenses. If I put a trailer park in Fairfield Center with 1,000 trailers, you know what the cost is to this town? To take all those children in school and plow those roads and turn those street lights on. Huge expense to the town when there's half your cost is education.
What'd you say about salmon?
They are catching hundreds of Atlantic salmon at the Hathaway down there.
Really?
Hundreds. Yeah. They take them right up to New Sharon and release them. Hundreds of them. And they're all getting trapped in pools on the left side, on the Winslow side.
Yeah.
When the water comes up, these fish get up to these
Sure.
pools and they get trapped. Well,
get trapped.
DEP goes down and scoops them up, and they're catching striped bass down there, big time sturgeon, brown
where are
trout,
they-
5 to 10 pound brown trout they're getting in that lift box right there.
Serious?
Sea run brown trout.
Where are they taking them? Up above the dam? And
They take them to their spawning grounds up in New Sharon, on the Sandy River. Anything else, Nicole?
No, that's all I had.
Okay.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
No, I didn't either.
They've been egging the broodstock they trap at Hathaway in the fall. They egg them. They squeeze the eggs out of the females. They take the male. They take those eggs and plant them in gravel up in New Sharon, and just like they're naturally in gravel.
Yeah.
I took my airboat from Norwich Walk up the Kennebec, up the Sandy, to the salmon resting pools, and there's a place where there's ledges, and my depth finder said there was 20 feet of water. Ledges like this, and they said, oh yeah, this is where the kids jump off in the water. Well, there's 20 feet of water there. That's where those little minnows come down and stay in that area for 2 years, then they head out to sea.
Yeah.
And they know when they're heading out to sea because they make them turn off the turbines at the Skowhegan Dam
Yeah.
and the Sharman Dam
I
to
remember
let
that.
those fry go through. Well, these fry now are coming back up 3 to 5 years later, and they're 8 to 15 pounds
They're getting
Atlantic
lost.
salmon, which means they could restore these things, and these things would be very restricted. You you could catch one but never take it out of the water, you'd have to release it, type thing. And they're restricting the striped bass right now the same way. You can't keep one between 28 and 38 inches. But the pokies are back for the first time in 20 years in the Kennebec.
Yeah.
And the pokies were wiped out by the Russian fishing trawlers that took them, we thought, for dog food, but we think they were eating them.
Yeah.
Okay?
Down in, when I lived in Damascus,
Right there, yeah.
oh my God.
Smell.
Bluefish chased the pogies up the river
Yep.
and the gully there, and all those fish used up all the oxygen. And in the middle of the summer,
Dead.
there is this deep dead fish
Yep.
along the shore.
Yep.
It stunk so bad, you could not bear it.
But that's these fisheries trying to migrate, and of course, with our dams, they can't migrate. I was fishing down there 25 years ago, and I said to my buddies, we're going fishing, where are the birds? Oh, there's birds circling over there. We drove out 5 miles, there was a floating island of pogies, 100 yards in diameter, and the pogies were 2 feet out of the water. The striped bass, the sharks, everything had circled this school up and was driving it up. So I backed into this floating school of pokies and chopped up a bunch of them, filled my real wells with them. As fast as we could hook them on and drop them down, you'd catch something. And there was like 6-foot sharks right under the boat attacking this island. It was a floating island of pokies, and it stayed there for 4 hours. That's how many pokies were there.
You need to be on a TV show or something.
Yeah, I am on a TV show right now.
We gotta wrap it up, folks.
Okay, wrap it up. Oh, go ahead, one comment.
Copy of the finding of facts. Would it be beneficial if each one of us had a copy so we could actually follow you along and be more involved? Like, all the time I can't hear because my hearing's so bad.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't know if it'd benefit us to be more.
Yeah, it's,
On top.
so it's a proposed findings, so at any time that you find what he's saying correct to be not correct, but, I mean, it's like taking the application like you take it and going through it with
Right.
your ordinance. I mean, that's pretty much what it is.
Yeah. I don't know if it'd be a good idea or not.
Yeah,
Oh,
sure.
absolutely, absolutely.
Okay.
Follow along.
Yep.
Because
I
there
like
may be
that.
an item that you'll say, wait a minute, you know, it's a
I
sewage
didn't
treatment
read it
plant,
that
of
way.
course there's air pollution, you know what I mean? You might, and that's, and again, I'm just reading this.
Right,
stuff.
if we could follow you along.
Absolutely, because what if, again, you didn't agree with that it's
was
polluting
something in the
something?
ordinance that-
Absolutely,
yeah.
and maybe we missed something in the finding of fact, but that is a legal issue. When you read this finding of fact, you're making a statement publicly recorded
Yeah.
that you've met these criteria, so
And I
no one
couldn't
can
hear
say
half what you
later
said
on,
tonight, so.
oh, okay, no one can say later on, oh, well, it
You
didn't meet
didn't
the
address
ordinance.
it, you didn't talk about it.
You didn't talk about that.
Yeah.
Nicole, do we have anything right now for a meeting for next month?
yeah.
Maybe the subdivision at the water tower, you know, out on Norwich Walk Road, that big subdivision might be coming in next week. So as soon as I get the application, I'll get it out to you. August 2.
You got plans next month?
Is that?
Yeah, plans next month?
Not really.
Okay.
You may have, you don't know.
Okay.
Well, yeah. I
Take
got
a
bunch of-
vote to close?
Enough fishing discussions, all those in favor of closing the meeting? Thank you. Made a motion to close, second.
Okay.
Voted, closed.
Done.